Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another deck profile. Today we're here with Gabe, one of our own here at Crossworld. He came top 8 at the Super Players 1K. How you doing today, dude?
Pretty well, pretty well. How you doing today, Joey?
I am good, man. Glad to have you here. Congratulations on top 8. It's always a special thing when one of our guys manages to get it, so very, very awesome stuff there. You played Launch. Now, I know in this format, you've been bouncing around between a few decks. I know for a while you were on Dark Broly. How did you land on Launch?
Yeah, so as you said, I was kind of bouncing from deck to deck. I couldn't really find a home in any color. To be honest, red was on the bottom of my radar at the beginning of the format, especially launch, mostly because I hadn't really seen a lot of just everything seemed so archetype based that I wasn't really kind of going towards the more like dual colored, even tricolored variants of this deck. The only deck that I really for red that I would considered playing at first was King Piccolo, which I still think is a contender. But yeah, like I was playing Dark Broly at first. That was really fun for a while, but I just think it's too linear right now, and people are countering it. It is one of the dark horses, as you say. This list performed really well in the Canadian tournament, and I was really intrigued. I changed like maybe a card or two from that, but overall it performed really well. I was glad I picked it.
Gotcha. So you kind of went with Launch because you're able to kind of deviate away from that archetype stuff. And Launch, like, she does have her archetype stuff, but I haven't seen any lists that actually incorporate it. Like, I think that the best way to play Launch, kind of like you're saying, is deviate away from the archetype stuff, play the generic stuff. You know, we saw, obviously, red, blue, green won the event, and you got top 8 with red, green. So
Yes. Yep.
it is very, very cool how the deck can kind of deviate like that. So we'll just get right into the main deck. So we're playing 10 ways to flip our leader. So what made you decide on 10? This is, again, I think you said you got this a lot from the list that won the Canadian event. So did you find that 10 was okay?
Yeah, 10 was actually a good number. I do think I could probably cut down. It's not like it was. It's so I obviously always had. I damn near had it like every time turn one. Um, if not like turn two or even going second, I would have it. Drop for the seventh card. Um, I the only issue that I really had with the deck was I would draw too many cards at times, just because I was constantly flipping. For instance, in my top 8, I did pretty much deck out game 1. I was going to deck out, so that was kind of the only downfall. I could probably just only play 8, and be fine with it. But yeah, I mean, I don't have any qualms about this really. It performed really well.
Cool, cool. Yeah, I've seen players that kind of like they say you had to play all the ways to flip your leader, not counting the unison, of course. You did side deck the unison. We'll talk about that later on. But I've seen many players say you got to play all 12 copies of flip. But I think 10 is probably a pretty good number because, like you said too, like I don't think people oftentimes believe this, but in these decks that draw like a ridiculous amount of cards in like mid range matchups, decking out is like a real problem. So
Yeah, you're
I think people don't take that
essentially.
seriously enough.
Yeah, you're pretty much drawing 3 cards a turn, if you do have a card that's able to flip your leader. So that is an issue at times, especially like you said, going towards more of the mid-range matchups. Um, yeah, it decking out can be an issue.
Yeah, so I think people definitely got to keep that in mind, and that's why I like playing around like 50 to 52 cards, depending on if it's more of an aggro meta, if it's more of a mid range meta. But that's just one of my things. So here's the main meat of the deck, I guess you could say. So you're playing Piccolo Jr. Cater of Peace. For some reason, this card is just like perfect for launch. It really just fits in here perfectly. The red green stuff obviously makes a lot of sense. You're playing Piccolo, and what's really cool about Piccolo, about launch, when you compare it to like Hercule, is that you get the draw on the combo even if it's not your leader swings. Like that makes Piccolo hit even harder and you lose like no hand size. And one of the things about Piccolo, it's an incredible battle card, but like it doesn't have a lot of protection, doesn't have barrier, doesn't have deflect. So did either of those things ever like kind of bite you in the butt in the tournament?
Um, no, to be honest. Although, so the deflect part, yes. I'll get into that afterwards. But the main thing that I was concerned about it was that it didn't have barrier. So of course this card has kind of been floating around. I've seen it in like red green Broly, other red green variants, but it just hard loses to Demigra. That was the biggest thing that I was scared of was green and Demigra. And the leader itself kind of has a built-in anti Demigra while being on the backside. You get the minus 5k to any card,
Mm-hmm.
as well as the TP also being able to give something -5 when you combo something while it's on the board. So it inherently kind of has like a okay, we can kind of stop Demigra and Charismatic coming out, in the early turns when you want to jam this. Um, the so that was that I'm glad that I that the launch leader has that built in.
Right.
That kind of obviously Piccolo Jr., like you said, is kind of made for this more or less. The non-deflect part, the only time it was an issue was in top 8 against Brian Samuel. He was maining Denial of Hope. So
That's
he
a
was just
throwback.
keeping it's a fat throwback. I was not expecting it. Like he had 2 red up, or he would keep like is I believe Denial's 2 red.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, he would keep 2 red up, and I was like, there's like no way, right? Like, and I was kind of thinking of it. I was like, man, it's a good threat. I know like other red variants were kind of like citing it just as like a, oh, it can stop anything 20k or less. And yeah, he had it game 1, and it destroyed me. Like it's hard because you're dedicating 2 energy to this play, and like even at times, like, yeah, you get the draw 2 and you can burn a life and stuff like that, but that's obviously really good. But when it gets stopped, again, you're just dedicating so much to this one card that it is like pretty much your entire turn, more or less.
And it's so funny. I totally agree that what you're saying, but it's so funny to think about like only 2 energy, just a 2 energy play is like technically dedicating a lot of
Yeah,
energy. That's
yeah,
such a weird concept.
kind of crazy how much this game has evolved. Yeah.
Definitely. All right, so you're playing 4 Nappa. I think that's amazing in this deck because draw combo. Like it basically is a 10k super combo that draws twice, which is incredible. And obviously it's
Yep.
Alliance fuel for your Piccolo, and then
Yep.
Trunks Helping Blast, absolute staple with Piccolo. So we'll go on to the next page here. So this is a combo that we see in a lot of green decks. Actually, in a lot of decks that want to be more aggressive. So 3 Bardocks, 3 Beerus to be played off the Bardocks, and then 3 Belmod double devastation. So for 0 energy, essentially, you're getting the Bardock attack, the Beerus attack, and then the Belmod attack, assuming you have another battle card on the board, which is not too difficult to do in this deck. So did this just help you push harder in matchups you wanted to be aggro?
Yeah, definitely. I would say that, like, obviously Bardock is just it's gas in pretty much any like kind of aggro deck, more or less. Obviously 0 energy, draw 2, discard 1. The Beerus only adds, he's fodder for that. He's also good just as a green combo. And then Belmont too is able to just kind of, when you swing with everything after you're going wide, even for the defense part too, like people kind of forget that he has blocker. There would be turns where I would get Nimbus against like Mega, for instance, and I would have, I'd be able to swing with, I'd have like Bardock. I would overwhelm Bardock, and then I'd have like 2 other like probably like a Piccolo Jr. and then like something else on board, and I would play Belmont, have like a blocker on board, which was pretty nice. But yeah, I mean these cards performed really well. Um, yeah, I again, no calls for these really. They did their job.
Nice, yeah. And I'm not gonna lie. Right before you said that about Belmont having blocker, I looked down at the card and I was like, "Wow, this thing has blocker."
Yeah, I
I didn't
know.
even realize that.
Yeah, and pop anything too, so that's always nice.
Yeah, that part's obviously really, really good. So we have 4 Acrobatic Warrior, comes some of the more red-green stuff we'll talk about in just a minute. 3 Topos and 2 Zarbons. Okay, so I find this interesting. Zarbon first, because I really didn't see any other launch lists playing this. So how did it work out for you?
It was nice actually. Being able to kind of just have a 1 energy body that you could play was good. The blocker part never really. Surprisingly, that's like its main thing is you're blocking to obviously like stop an attack, make them discard. But a lot of decks were able to kind of just remove it, like either the turn it came out or before I could even block. It was good for alliance fodder sometimes. But yeah, that card's interesting. I think it could possibly be replaced for something like maybe Hasty Dispatch Dispo. I am a fan of that card. I was kind of I was toying with that idea for a while. I'd seen it in some other lists. But yeah, I think I would probably change it to Dispo going forward.
Gotcha. And then 3 Topo Righteous Aid. So there's always the debate whether or not Topo's good or bad. So after the weekend, what were your thoughts on it?
This card's gas. I'll be honest, this card is gas. Like, I don't know why, but it damn near overperformed in like every single matchup this weekend, especially in the mirror. It was crazy. I played the mirror round 4, I believe. And game 1, I got absolutely slaughtered because he drew 2 Topos. I drew none. Game 2 and 3, I opened the stones. I had only had like 1 topo, and then game 3 I had like 3 topos, and it was just stopped him like immediately. And he also wasn't. He kind of bricked too, but yeah, topo overperformed surprisingly this weekend.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense for me. I always think people kind of theorize it a bit too much, and they're like, "Oh, Topo is so answerable nowadays." But I mean, blue is not super popular, so Trunks isn't really killing it, and people aren't really playing counterplays except for Brian Samuel, who's playing Denial of Hope. So besides that, I mean, Topo is not really getting answered.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, so for our red-green threats, we have 4 Gogeta, we have 1 Chompabiris, and 1 Unwavering Conviction Goku. So this is the split you decided to go with. I've seen some people say that they'd rather go 4 Chompabiris and 1 Gogeta because like sometimes answering the 20k is more relevant than answering the 4 drops because sometimes things are like, 5 drop or above, but they still have like 20k power, that kind of thing. But
Mhm.
Gogeta's got the base double strike. So what do you think on that?
Yeah, so I do think I probably should have played more Champa and Beerus this weekend, specifically because I wasn't playing any. No, I wasn't playing Champa or Hidden Power E Supreme Kai, so I couldn't give anything double strike. The surprise factor of Champa Beerus is honestly like the main thing. Uh, Also, like the killing anything 6 or what is it 20k? Yeah, 20k or less. Um, so yeah, I do think going forward, Champa Beerus is probably better compared to Gogeta. Um, just because Gogeta's he's obviously, even though he has inherent double, he's a pop something on play. So, and it's a little underwhelming because sometimes you want to jam it when there's nothing on board. Um, but yeah, I do think Champa Beerus is probably the better one moving forward.
Gotcha. All right, and then for a little bit more of our defenses, we had 3 Violent Rays, 1 Screen Kai of Time, Space Time Unraveler. Nothing too crazy here. I think you need Violent Rays in this format. Dark Broly, Red Broly, Green Gotenks, that kind of stuff. But I guess if Launch becomes more popular, Violent Rays isn't that good. So did you play against a lot of decks where Violent Rays was significant?
No, actually, I didn't really play against anything. I'd say probably again top 8 against Brian Samuel. It did. It came in handy because he was playing coolers, stuff like that. So he was playing some like 20k threats. But yeah, it's not very good in the mirror. um, and a lot of the stuff ground. It's not that even against Mecha. Mecha was all right because I was just playing it like uh, before they could sell Surge Me. Really, that was the main thing,
Mm-hmm.
or sell Xeno, excuse me. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Violent Rays moving forward will be a meta call. Just it's kind of I could see people maining it, or if you want to just side it too. I think it's kind of up to player decision moving forward.
Gotcha. All right, and now we come to the side deck. I'll just let you run us through that.
Yeah, so we're playing the Bulma Unison. I think I probably should have mained this card. The only qual I had with not maining it was because obviously you don't get a defensive combo step when they swing into Unison, and that's like Launch's biggest thing. You do get a free block, which to be honest, the only thing it seems really good against is Dark Broly because the 30k bodies are just super annoying. Um, and yeah, you can get one block and then just combo the next attack. Also, being able to kind of like cherry pick your life is pretty nice too. I'm kind of still on the fence if I want to main it or not. But I definitely want to keep it somewhere in the 65 for sure. Max Power Kamehameha, this card's just instant removal. I hadn't tested the deck prior during the weekend, so I was kind of learning on the fly. But in my head, I kind of had an idea that Sin would be a weird matchup, so I just needed like inherent removal. I'll just bounce over to the 6-drop Bardock fully unleashed also because that's kind of the same idea. Uh, Against Sin, also really good against 6-drop Broly or yeah, anything 6 or higher. So Broly, Go Tank, stuff like that. Dark Power Black Mass Saiyan. Um, this card was all right. It came in a few times. I played a yellow Whis in like round 3, so that card was pretty good against that matchup. Yeah, it's just generic, just good generic sideboard stuff. One Mai. I didn't expect a lot of blue. I didn't play one blue deck, but I would still keep it in the board. I feel like Blue Baby is like somewhere in the meta. I don't know where it is, but I feel like it's out there somewhere. So yeah, Two Denial, the Brian Samuel special. Um, uh, I didn't cite it in. I feel like I should have, but I never boarded it in. Secret Identity. I cited this for the mirror, and it came in pretty handy actually. Um, that's mostly it. Load of the stuff, ground stuff that goes wide. Kaioken. To be honest, saw the dude who won the Canadian tournament cited it, and I was like, that card seems cool, so I just threw it in.
Did
But
it
I
ever
never,
come
I
up?
never boarded it in.
No. All right.
Yeah.
Well, Gabe, that is the deck. Thank you so much for going through that with us and kind of giving us your perspective on it. I do think Launch is going to be a deck people are going to have to look out for because I think it's going to grow in popularity quite a bit. Any final words you want to say? Any shout outs you want to throw out there?
Yeah. Final words. I really, really enjoyed playing this deck this weekend. It is very memorable of Hercule, and Hercule was my probably was my favorite deck. This and Launch were probably or excuse me, Hercule and Launch were my two favorite decks I've played. Um, Shout outs, of course. Shout out to Joey. Thanks for letting me hop on the channel. Shout out to all the everybody on the team, obviously, and then shout out to all the dudes in NorCal. You know who you are that I test with all the time. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome, man. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
All right, thanks, man.